Okay. طيب, the class is being recorded, and this is me, Dr. Sameh, and this is EA300B. We're doing Tom's Midnight Garden. Before we proceed, you guys know your marks by now, the MTA marks. I have marked and I have posted on Cyrus, and I hope that by now you know your marks. I wasn't happy with most of the answers. People have a tendency to kind of either repeat themselves or give us the story. Obviously, this is not what we hoped for. But anyway, I would like you to perhaps focus more, read the prompts very well if you intend, if you have plans to do close reading questions in the final you talking about. Not just about writing whatever comes to your mind, not about filling the pages, obviously. There is more to close reading questions than just that. Giving people everything, and then the marker should choose the answer that he sees fit. Anyway, uh, we're doing Tom's Midnight Garden, and also I forget the final exam normally covers everything. So it is true that we're done with things before the midterm, but it doesn't mean that we're not doing them. You're not going to see them in the final exam. You still have the picture books with you. You still have the other side of truth. We're doing now. It's midnight. So Tom's Midnight Garden. Before, oh, I'm sorry. Before I proceed, if you would like to say something about the marks, I mean, if you have issues or problems, the marks, you may want to share them. Perhaps
The
5 minutes.
marks are out, doctor?
Yeah, they are out. Yes, they are on the SIS.
Okay, thank you. Can you
Um,
please know which can you please tell us which is the highest mark? Like how high?
I mean, I think somebody scored like 26.25, 26 and quarter. This is the highest. I don't know about the lowest, but I don't recall that anybody was given less than 15. Um,
Doctor, I'm very happy with the mark. Thank you very much.
you're welcome, Yafa. You deserve it. I mean, the only, you know what my issues with you are, right? From
Yes,
previous
my
semester.
handwriting,
Yes.
doctor.
Yeah, you have to work on that. You're young and you can change yourself. You
Actually,
need,
doctor, I study with writing. I don't know what else I can do.
you're struggling with writing. You're not
I
struggling with writing.
study with writing. I study with
What,
handwriting. I write all the
what,
material with my hand.
but work on it. I mean, have a model, okay? Have a model and try to kind of imitate this kind. You're not, sometimes if you're my age, for example, or a little younger, it would be very difficult for me to break my old habits of writing in a certain way. But you're young, right? You still have a lot of things to develop and learn. So it's never too late to have a model. I mean, look at different writing styles from different people, and that easily on the internet. And if you like any of them, focus on how things are written, and then it's going to take like months before you can get a handle of it, and then you develop this kind of handwriting style, and it becomes yours.
Can you
Because sometimes people would judge يعني from afar, but because I know you and I know how good you are, yeah, وفاء, يعني I exercise patience, if you like. I I try to give you the benefit of the
Yeah,
doubt and
that's why I check
focus.
all my classes with you because
Yeah.
no one's as
Mm,
generous with
mm,
my
mm.
handwriting as you are.
Yeah. And also you need to so this time around it's not about only handwriting, it's about squeezing everything in a very small space, and I don't know why you end up also not giving the form or the shape of an essay, because this is a requirement, right? It's not about giving us knowledge, however deep and profound your knowledge is. It's not about that. It's also about writing it in an essay format or style. If you squeeze everything together, it doesn't become an essay anymore, right? Um, until you change your handwriting, at least work on those formal aspects. The idea of perhaps leaving space, which means that you shouldn't write. I mean, it should be double space kind of writing, and you need to make those clear demarcations between every and each paragraph. Leave enough space for people to realize that this is the end of a paragraph and the beginning of another one. Is that clear,
Yes, I will take
Wafa?
I will keep that in mind. Thank you, doctor.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Somebody's sending me something or writing something. Read. Do you think the 20 out of 30 marks are very good? It's a good mark. Yeah, it's a good mark. It's not too high and it's not low, of course. Yeah, it's a good mark. But
Doctor.
we're also giving you the benefit of the doubt, ya Layan. You have issues and problems, and I think you know them, right? In terms of length and everything. Yeah, somebody's yeah, yeah, go ahead. Mariam, I think.
Yeah,
Mm.
doctor, isn't 26 relatively low? I got 25.20. I got 25.25, and I thought it was low because, like you saying, 26 is the highest. I don't know. Is
Mm.
that um? Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think about those things, and those considerations do not concern me, Mariam. I try to be fair and square, and I try to be even, yani, helpful and generous. You get your mark and a dash extra. So it's about you, not about me. Now, I don't mind. I can give you 30 if you deserve 30. But do you deserve
Uh,
30?
no, my
This is the
question
issue.
is like, where did we go wrong? That's my question, not that we deserve higher.
Yeah, perhaps, of course, it would differ. I mean, and we have different categories. You have people who, let's say, between 26 and 24 or 23. This is a category. And you have people who scored like 22 until 18. This is another category. And you go down. What perhaps unites you all would be the idea of depth. I don't see, except for the 26 that I gave Wafa. I didn't feel the depth and the profundity that I was looking for. You guys are not deep enough. It's not about giving us what we have given you. It's not payback time. It's about you, you know, comprehending and assimilating what we say, and then you go to the secondary sources and you put everything together and you come up with your own synthesis. So I don't see proper synthesis. I see things getting repeated. I see, like I said, you lack profundity and depth, and this is very important. So we end up assessing you based on the knowledge, and this is not what we want. Together with the knowledge, because knowledge is easy, I mean, you know, kind of memorizing stuff and then coming to the exam and putting it. Yeah, it can be easy. What is not easy, I mean, this is if you're in the category of perhaps 23 or 22 to 18, for example. This is memorizing and then giving us uh, what we have given you. But if you're aiming high, if you're hoping for this category, we're talking about 24 until perhaps 30, you have to be deep, you have to be relevant, you have to give vivid examples from the things that we have studied together. So it depends on the category that you're hoping for. Um, hmm. Somebody was saying something. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
doctor, one more question. Do you by any chance remember my paper? أنا مريم.
What? Excuse me?
Do you by any chance remember my paper like you remember Wafat?
I remember Wafab because she's the only one who got 26. She stood out, but that's why I remember. I can also remember the one who scored very low because she's, or he, for that matter, stands out. Okay, but I have the papers in front of me, and it's not, yeah,
Okay.
no, it's not.
I would love to get some notes on mine. Please.
What's your name?
مريم طاشكندي.
Mariam Tashkandi.
I got 24.25.
Yeah. So you have the short answers are out of 5, like you remember. So you scored 4 out of 5 in the first one. You scored 4.25 in the second one, which is also a short answer. And you scored 16 out of 20 in the long essay. So it doesn't seem to me that you have issues with the short answers. And the only issues perhaps would be with the 16 out of 20 in the long answer question. And again, it has to do, let me see what I wrote over there. Yeah, first of all, it's not very, or it's not as long as I hoped for it to be. You have lots of, let me, for example, count how many lines you have kind of deleted, and you put them in the count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 or 7 lines are deleted. We end up having like a question that is, yeah, it's almost 2 pages. It's this page and the other, and then um, so it wasn't long enough. And again, I don't assess based on how long or how short. And I'm after conciseness. But I think the question for you, Mariam, merited or deserved more thinking and more, more writing. You could have provided more examples. You could have elaborated more on the ideas. And I gave you the benefit of the doubt. On second thoughts, I would have given you perhaps 15 or 14, but I gave you 16 out of 80 for that question. So you need to write longer. You need not to uh, kind of you need to have a draft if you're into the habit of kind of what do they call it? Um deleting things and wiping them out. You need to think before you write because it gives your also your essay. It doesn't give the right impression. So again, the idea of length is very important. The idea of depth is equally important. Yeah, uh, Mariam. Mariam?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. So any more fair? Yes. Yeah, you're
Doctor,
raising
I
your
know
hand.
this is a lot
That's
beyond
fine.
our level, but can you elaborate more on what you mean when you say you're looking for depth in our essays?
Depth is normally felt, and it's not, and you feel it, and then you measure it. Okay, so depth only appears when you have like two or three papers, and one of them is over the top, is through the roof, and the other is again the knowledge is there. Let's agree on that. Whatever Wafa has written is similar to what Rima has written, but perhaps the difference between Rima and Wafa is this idea of depth, is the idea of perhaps more relevance, more vibrance, um, language, of course, counts. I mean, the idea of using the right idiom in the right place, using academic language. Sometimes you feel that people, it's good to feel like comfortable in your own skin and write very freely and in a relaxed way, but regulations. And this is perhaps the difference between Wafa and Rima. Rima scored like 25 if she's here. And again, the difference is, I mean, Rima has always been a student of mine, and I know how good she is, but she is writing in a very relaxed way. It is acceptable, but at the same time, I would, or perhaps I hope more for proper academic writing. And this is what
Still
Wafa
understand.
gave, for example. So again, depth would include all of that. I mean, academic writing, using and writing using proper idioms. I mean, and I'm talking about English major idioms, and by idiom I mean language. Using the right register. You guys have taken linguistics, and you know what register is. Again, relevance and how relevant you are, and also the idea of analysis. Some people may give me a nice story. I mean, they give us the analysis in an anecdotal way. I mean, like telling a story. This is good, but this is again not academic writing, not analysis. So analysis is very important, and synthesis. Synthesis is about making a combination of what I said, what the secondary sources said, and what the novel or the novelist said. You put all together and come up with something decent and unique. So this is not happening often, unfortunately. I hope this
Thank
answers your
you.
question.
Yes, thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. Um, Anybody else before we move to Tom's Midnight Garden?
Doctor,
Yeah,
inshallah, we will do better in the second quiz and final exam.
yeah, I hope so. Sure.
Secondly, if you noticed if you noticed, and according to the essay question, if you noticed that I wrote number one and number two because I meant the sentences that I write number one next to it. I meant it to be the first one, and the number two, uh, and the sentences that I wrote number two next to it. I meant I meant to be, the next to the I do not deliberately لخبطت بين it is kind
That's
of
fine.
more
That's
I will
fine.
make
You're talking about the two short answer questions, and you
no
got
essay
the
no
and the
essay
essay. Your essay
no
was short, and I gave you more than what you deserve, and because of what you do in class. You do a lot. You are very diligent and hardworking. But judging from what you wrote, you need to reconsider how you write in exams here. Yeah. And this is very important, and this is something that lots of people do. They finish the exam and they forget things, and they perhaps call me or they send me a WhatsApp message giving me the answer that they forgot to add. Obviously, this is not, I'm not going to mark what you're saying to me. I only mark the exam paper, right? So don't waste your time by, I mean, if you forgot, if you I don't know what happens in the exam. I mean, telling me or filling the gaps with me on WhatsApp wouldn't do any good. I'm not talking about Layan, I'm talking about lots of other people.
but thank you,
Uh,
doctor. Thanks
you're
a
welcome.
lot.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, tight. Let's forget this part and perhaps focus more on what is ahead. You still have 50 marks, and 50 marks is too much, right? Not 50 marks. You still have uh, can 60 marks, right? You still have the second quiz, which is out of 10, and you have the 50 marks of the final exam. So you still have 60% of the exam. So work hard, and we're trying to help. We know that you're graduating and you need every single mark, but you need to give us reasons for us to give you those marks. Okay, طيب. So what did we say about we posted the date of the second quiz, and you know, of course, that the second quiz is going to cover Tom's Midnight Garden exclusively. We're not doing anything else. Again, we're expecting people to write essays, okay, long essays, okay. We're also, of course, you know that you'll come to the university to do the exam. It's not online anymore. And for people who send me an email reminding me of a makeup for the first quiz, as if we have ever said that we're going to have a makeup for the first quiz. We're not giving makeups for quizzes, and this is very clear. So don't send me emails reminding me of what I didn't forget. We made it explicitly clear that if you miss a quiz, there is no way you can like make it up to you. Okay, let's just focus on Tom's Midnight. I was talking about the second quiz, and I said that you have 10 marks. 10 marks is big. You can, write a decent essay, and you can get those 10 marks. And of course, you will have afterwards the final exam. And like I said, the final exam is going to cover everything. Again, a takeaway from the midterm exam would be that people should write. Okay, people should write, and the level of the answers in terms of length is not very satisfactory. You need to write, because obviously when you give you questions, we give you questions that are full of flesh. If you elaborate on them, you can come up with very comfortably with at least 2 pages and a half, and perhaps more. And I said, if I have to choose between people writing too much or writing too little, of course I would go for writing too much. Right. What did we say about Tom's Midnight Garden? Somebody is sending me something. Right. Remind me of Tom's Midnight Garden. I think by now we have finished the midterm exam way back, and this is our second class. Is it our? It's our third class in Tom's Midnight Garden, because we did a class here in the regular class, and we also did a master class. So how much do you still remember about Tom's Midnight Garden? Come to the mic, share. This may help you with the final exam. And we still have, I'm still collecting impressions for the 5 marks of attendance and participation. So if you don't attend, or if you don't participate and you get 4 or 3, don't ask me why. Well, you know the reason by now. Okay, Wafa, go ahead.
Tom Midnight Garden is a novel written by Philippa Pierce. It's marked by the magical garden that appears in the middle of the night, and it's an impression of Tom's loneliness and eagerness for play and wonder. And through the garden, he meets his friend Hattie, and he forms a deep connection with her. But as time passes on, he has to go through watching her grow up and go through life while he's getting younger. And by this, it teaches children how to accept changes and loss within life. So it uses the fantastical to eliminate the real.
It's not about eliminating the real, but perhaps the fantastic would give you the opportunity to understand the real more. It's
I
yeah,
said
yeah,
illuminate the real, not
illuminate, not eliminate. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely, yes. Okay, Wafa, thank you. Leanne?
One of the major themes in Tom's Midnight Garden, that there is a clash between a child's imagination and an adult's
R-
reason.
Reality.
Yeah.
Reason. You have, okay. Yeah, this is a very interesting point that Leanne is making. It also comes down to the idea of this generational gaps that always exist between the old generation and the young generation. We have this gap between the Kitsons and Tom. Remember, they had those long debates with Tom on one side and the Kitsons on the other, in which, they discussed lots of things. The idea of time, fantasy, and remember those long debates that they had, and it seemed from those debates that the gap exists between, which is a typical gap. You're talking about um, a novel that was written after the Second World War, where you have lots of disillusionment, you have frustrations, and obviously Tom represents that, or represents a generation that has those kinds of feelings, however little he is. And obviously the Kitsons would represent England or Britain, always and everywhere, conservatism, not accepting change, finding excuses, living an old style of living, accepting things, accepting authority, never challenging or questioning it. So obviously, Tom is against all of that as a representative of the generations that came after the Second World War, with that disenchantment with I mean Britain after the war, and the amount of destruction that happened, and the kind of illusions that they were living under, and the fact that, I remember, Britain has always painted itself as the biggest empire, the most formidable civilization and empire on earth, and of course, you know what happened with them in the Second World War. Had it not been for those huge miscalculations by Hitler, they would have been speaking German now. So it's not, I mean, they came victorious in the Second World War, not because they were powerful or strong. It's simply because of the mistakes of others. So people realize, the English themselves, realize that. So that's part of the disenchantment and the feeling of frustration that they felt. So Tom represents all of that. So you have moving also to the world of fantasy can be one way of escaping this sad reality. And obviously, moving away from reality and is met with challenges and resistance from the old generation, as represented by the Kitsons. So it's a good idea. Diane is giving us a very interesting idea. The idea of this kind of um, opposition and resistance upon the part of the old generation to whatever is fantastic and whatever is fantastical. And upon the part of the young generation, the fantastic offers ways of momentarily flying away from the miserable here and now, the frustrating here and now, and then coming back with new realizations, new awareness. And unfortunately, the awareness that comes with it would be the idea that this is inevitable. We live in a linear kind of life. We need to accept change. We need to accept that life will come to its inevitable end eventually. So Tom and Hatti are fine with each other. Hatti is a source of inspiration, of comfort, but at one point, Hatti has to go, and Tom has to realize that. So this is what he realized eventually. So this is the impact of the fantastic. It gave him the momentary escapade that he wanted and hoped for. But it also learned him or taught him a lesson or two. The fact that he has to come back to his senses, realizes that nothing is permanent, especially life and its linearity, and there is this doomed trajectory where there is an end for everything. Yeah. What else do we know about Tom's Midnight Garden? عندي محاضرة معلش هتستنى ساعتين. Excuse me يا جماعة. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Doctor.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. So these are some of the ideas that we have in the novel. Again, one of those big ideas have to also do with the character of Hatti herself, and how much of a role does she play? Remember, she's very instrumental and very transformative when it comes to the development of the character of Tom. And this is perhaps strange given the fact that this genre is a male-dominated kind of genre where women do not normally have a say. Males and men are always or have they are normally um, they have loud voices. They are presented as muscular, as strong, as daring, and adventurous, and they normally, and towards the end, they emerge victorious, always. So to have a female character like Hattie reversing those kinds of gender roles, you would think of her along the lines of characters like Smudge, if you still remember Smudge. Do you remember what we said about Smudge? She's very similar.
Yes.
And also you would think of Tom as Charles, right? And this is very few and far um, uh, between, if you ask me, when it comes to children's literature, where normally the male is dominant. So you need to always think of the character of Hattie, and also think of the fact that much of the material that we have and that we read about in the novel is given through Hattie. Her memories, what happened to her. I don't think we still remember anything about Tom. Tom, because he is a child, remember? Perhaps this is one of the differences between Tom and Hatti is that she lives a double kind of life. She has a past and she has a present. In the present, of course, she is a child and a playmate. But when we go to the past, we get to know that she has a family and she has brothers and sisters and father and mother who are all dead. She even got married and she had kids who were also killed in the war. So much of what we read about in the novel has to do with the life of Hattie and not Tom, because Tom, like I said, he's a child and he's going to remain a child. It is true that he develops and he matures because of the what Hattie allowed him uh, uh, to see in her life and to share about her life. It is true that he develops on in terms of awareness, but he remains a child. The Tom that we meet at the beginning is the Tom that we meet at the end in terms of age. He didn't change much. What changes about him, or what changed about him, would be this level of awareness that he got. He had by the end he now has this advanced level of awareness about reality, about life, about acceptance. And again, that wouldn't have happened if um, we don't have Hattie. Um, what else? I mean, the idea of the imagination and what comes with the imagination is very important in a novel, like we said. And when you talk about the imagination, you also talk about the idea that whatever you accept in reality, uh, uh, um, or whatever you wouldn't accept in reality is limited. Life is limited in terms of its known dimensions. You cannot escape time or space. Of course, you're familiar with those usual unknown dimensions of life. But with the imagination, the sky is the limit when it comes to the unlimited possibilities that the imagination offers you. Again, you would say that this is imagination, and at one point you would have to come back to reality. But perhaps the imagination can be like some break time that you need. You try to momentarily um, go out of those limited and limiting dimensions of life so that you can think afresh, so that you can think things through. And then you come back to reality with the realizations and the awareness that you have that you have been given in this space of time and space in the during those flights of the imagination. So the imagination is not meant all the time to be some kind of escape. Yeah, escape reality all you like, but if you come back with new realizations about reality itself, this is not escape. This is needed distance, temporal and spatial distance. You need this so that you can start afresh. Don't we dream? The imagination and dreams are almost the same, where during your dreams you have things or you achieve things or you see things that you never have in real life. Okay, don't you come back from your dreams? You come back from your dreams. And perhaps dreams can also be visions. They um, they make you think of reality in different lights and so that when you come back to reality, you're more educated than ever about life and what it offers and what it doesn't, its limitations, and you are ready to accept those limitations eventually. So you can think of Tom's Midnight as a big dream that you come back from eventually with new realizations and new levels of awareness. Again, the power of the imagination and what it offers. And this is also very important. Whenever there is talk about Tom's Midnight Garden, there is always this talk about the power of the imagination. I think I made a small video with AI on that, and I shared it with you the other day. Just to remember, I sent it to you on the WhatsApp group. Did you have a chance to watch it?
Short video,
Yeah, it's very short and
the
sweet.
short one or the other one?
Yeah, I think it was short. Let me see.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about the imagination. I think I have more. Where is that? The one I sent you the other day was Tom's Midnight Garden, the Imagine something. Need to read the title, only the title. Even the title doesn't appear. Yeah, the last thing that I sent you.
It's Tom. It's Tom Midnight Garden, the imagination and its power.
Yes, absolutely. I would like you to invest some time on that. It's very well written and it's very short and sweet. Um, Again, one of the ideas that we keep talking about would be the idea of the bonds and the connections that characters build and forge between and among each other, and also how those bonds can also help the, one party overcome issues and challenges that we have. And of course, the one single bond that we keep talking about in Tom's Midnight Garden is the bond between Tom and, of course, Hattie. Again, as you can see, Hattie is central to what is being said. No Hattie, no Tom's Midnight Garden, to the extent that sometimes you may feel that the writer is not doing justice to Hattie, and Hattie should be the titular character. Titular means that she should give her name to the title of the novel, because it's all about Hattie. Hattie's past, Hattie's family, Hattie's growing up and changing, transforming, metamorphosing in new time. These are all things, if you keep talking about Hattie, you're not likely to finish. Talk about Tom, and you have very small things, and you're going to all the time be mentioning Hattie if you talk about Tom. While if you talk about Hattie alone, there is a great deal that you can say and tell about Hattie, her family, what happened to her, the transformations, the feelings that she had, her role with the other characters, especially with Tom. So the centrality of the character of Hattie cannot and should not be missed under any circumstances. Yeah, Leanne, go ahead.
You are absolutely right, because when I watched the film, they showed us different ages of Hattie, but Tom, no, only when he was young, and maybe when he when he becomes a man, maybe, يعني not like Hattie.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what we say. Normally, you have different levels of development and growth when it comes to Hattie, but you have only one level of growth when it comes to Tom. So in terms of even of number, and exposure, you would have Hatti more. Hatti was a child, presented as a child at one point. At others, you would see her growing and perhaps having those emotional attachment, and getting married, and then you see her when she is old. So different transformations, and with them you have different realizations. So when you see Tom, the only difference with Tom would be that he realizes that there are things that he has to accept in life, and life has its own limitations. This is the only development that we can ask. However big, of course, this development is. Um, so these are some of the themes that when we talk, um, that comes to our mind or our minds when it comes to Tom's Midnight God. I need you to read the second resource. I don't know whether you have started doing that or not. Have you read the second resources on Tom's Midnight Garden? Because in the final exam, normally, a huge chunk of the exam is on Tom's Midnight Garden. So you need not only settle for what I say in class, or perhaps the novel and full stop. No, you need to also read the second resources, because they would inform the discussion. They would also inform the essays and the arguments that you're going to start and develop in your final exam, and also even in the 10-mark quiz too. Let's take like a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, we'll continue this lovely debate and discussion on Tom's Midnight God. I'll see you in 10 minutes. I'm back. Can you hear me? Everyone?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. Yes. So we're talking again about Tom's Midnight Garden. And again, I said that the novel has a lot of ideas. Um, we need to also focus on the secondary sources, and you know where to find those secondary sources, whether we're talking about the large book that has all the articles on the different works that we have done together, or you can find them individually in different separate essays on articles. Um, what I want us to do now for the rest of the class is perhaps for those who are with us for the first time on Tom's Midnight Garden, let's kind of try to break the novel down to its basic components. We established the fact that it is a novel. You can only compare it to the other side of truth, in the sense that two of them are novels and they share the elements of what a novel is. You wouldn't compare it to, for example, The Tale of Peter Rabbit because it's not a novel, and you cannot compare it to Voices in the Park either because it's not a novel. So if we talk about novels and their elements, we would talk about the element of characters, the element of setting, plot, uh, point of view, and of course, they all apply to the novel. Let's make some kind of characterization. Let's focus on the characterization, the characters, and how they are presented, and what qualities and ideas do they bring to the conversation, to the novel, and how important. So when you talk about characters, we talk also about whether they are dynamic or static, and if they are dynamic, they have this capacity for change. And they also make other characters change in the process. So let's talk about the different elements and we'll see whether we can safely and comfortably say that Tom's Midnight Garden is a novel or not. So from your experience, you either finished the novel, I mean reading, or perhaps you're halfway through. So do you think that we can safely and comfortably say that Tom's Midnight Garden is a novel? I'm asking everyone.
Yes.
Okay. So a novel in the sense that it has all the elements and features of a novel. Characters, plot, setting, point of view, right? Okay, right. Let's perhaps focus on the characters. So I need somebody to come to the mic and share who the characters are, and then we talk about their different roles and how instrumental they are in developing the plot and the events and make them move forward. So who remembers the characters? We have Wafa, other people perhaps. Is Wafa the only one who remembers who the characters are in Tom's Midnight Garden? Hi, Wafa, go ahead.
Firstly, we meet Tom, the protagonist, and his family, his brother, his mother, and his aunt and uncle who comes to get him. And then we hear of Mrs. Bartholomew when he first arrived in their house. We don't meet her yet. And soon after, when Tom discovers the garden, we meet the character of Hatti. And those are the most important characters in the novel.
The novel. Do we have names for them? Can you, instead of saying, for example, his brother, can you tell us who, what name his brother, or I mean, if he has a name given to us, and if we talk about, his the Katsons, who they are and what names they are. Just to remember their names. If not, that's fine. Okay, practical. Yeah,
Tom's
go ahead.
brother is Peter. That's the only name I remember.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, Zuhur.
Yeah, I only remember Peter and the cousins, but I forgot their names.
Yeah, okay. You mean the cousins or the
The cousins of
mhm, of Hatti, right?
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Leanne.
Um, the aunt, Gwen,
Um,
Gwen.
yeah, Gwen. Yes. And how
Gwen.
about the uncle? What do you still remember the name of the uncle?
I don't remember the name of his uncle.
Yeah,
Maybe
uh,
maybe
uh,
but maybe the first
Alan.
letter. Yes,
Alan, I think.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. His name was Alan. Yes. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, right. Um, okay, let's talk about their different roles. I mean, the characters. If you have to kind of classify them in terms of importance, who comes first? You spoke about Tom, Hattie, the Kitsons. I mean, Gwen and Alan, Peter, the parents, the cousins. So let's arrange them in terms of how important they are. Yeah, Wafa, go ahead.
Obviously, Tom is the protagonist, because as you mentioned earlier, it might be argued that Hattie is far more important than him. And the other characters are all secondary characters. They are the main that the plot surrounds them.
Yes, I mean, because you have to have people, right? And it's through the interaction with the main character or characters for that matter that the story unfolds and it develops and everything in between, right? You cannot have only one or two characters. It wouldn't be a novel. You may think of it in as a short story, perhaps. If you have a novel, you have to have many characters, which we have. Um, So, like we said, we have Tom, of course, and Hattie as the main characters. And again, now whenever we talk about characters, we need to look at their gender and whether they are keeping to their traditional genders or not. And obviously, they are not, right? Can you elaborate on that, on the idea that we have gender reversal, that Hattie is obviously um, breaking the mold, if you like. Hattie is breaking the mold, is obviously not acting as she should in a traditional novel and in a traditional genre like children's lit. Can you elaborate on that? Zuhur, go ahead.
I think they want her to be, because the cousins, they don't want to play with her, or they don't allow her to do things with them
Mm,
because she's a girl.
mm,
But she want to be free and act like them, and not as normal girls.
yeah, which is obviously a little bit out of keeping with women and girls, whether in fiction or in reality. So, because society conservative and male-dominated as it has always been, expecting girls to uh, not to act as leaders, not to be in the foreground. They should be always in the background with little roles to play. And obviously, this is not happening. Leanne, go ahead. You're raising your hand.
According to Aunt Gwen, she's unlike her husband Alan
Mm, mm.
because 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 she shows more empathy for Tom's feelings and understands the impact of his words on his uncle's emotional state. She, and in addition, she gently reprimands Tom for upsetting his uncle because yeah he upsets him because of the debate about time and about fantasy. Yeah, 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 and she demonstrates the significance of considering others' perspectives.
You mean it has always, I don't know. I don't seem to agree with you when it comes to the character of Gwen. And I think she was more appeasing towards her husband. She would always take the side of the husband. To the extent that we're saying that you would think of Tom on one side of the debate, and Gwen and Alan on the other side. I mean, I don't know whether. I mean, you're saying that she used to reprimand Tom gently, and if you reprimand somebody and there is no gentleness about it, it's reprimanding that you're doing after all. But you have a point, yani, if we compare her to Alan, given the fact that Alan was also very short-tempered and upset, he gets upset and angry easily. Yeah, she is different, but she still fulfills the role or the traditional role of a traditional woman who is also embracing this idea of silence when it comes to discussions and making things happen and change. You wouldn't, of course, compare her to Hattie in any way. Okay, thank you, Layan. Wafa is raising her hand one more time. Go ahead, yeah, Wafa.
Yes, I was going to say the same point you just said, is that Aunt Gwen and Uncle Alan are the embodiment of traditional gender role. The first thing we notice about the uncles that he's very short-tempered, straightforward, and Aunt Gwen is more concerned with how her husband feels, how Tom feels, how much she feeds him. So it's very strict gender roles when it comes to the couple, uncle and aunt.
Yeah, they were very traditional. They represent the old generation, like we said, and the fact that they cannot tolerate dissent. Dissent means that you have a dissenting voice. You don't accept things. Um, you don't always say yes to things, especially when it comes to obsolete ideas, traditional ideas that may not be relevant to our times. So in this sense, I mean, obviously for them, Tom and what he said about time and about the world of fantasy and imagination, this was pure nonsense or to them, right? Um, Again, we have Tom as the main character, who is obviously a voice of dissent, and you would have Hattie as another main character, and they would compete for uh, status, for first position, who is the real protagonist, so who should carry I mean, the title should go to whom? That would be a big question that we need to ask. Again, when you talk about characters, you talk a great deal about the character of uh, 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 Hattie and her transformative role and the changes that happened to Tom because of her presence and because of her past and the experiences that she went through. Um, and it's only through those things that Tom shows us change. I mean, we normally assess a character and you say this character can be dynamic or static, and obviously if he or she is dynamic, this is of course very good. It's only the dynamism uh, uh, of Tom only happens when he encounters Hattie, when he goes with her to the past, when they experience the things that they experienced together. She gave him a chance to have a look into her past, and through the actual experiences that she went through and that she was transferred to Tom, that he changed and he became more aware than ever about life and its inevitability and the vanity of human wishes, and the limitations that life normally offers and stuff like that. So when we have characters and we talk about characterization, we would have this idea that we have this generation gap, and again, you would also focus on the fact that Tom represents the generation that came after the Second World War with that disenchantment and the disillusionment that people or this generation have of Britain and its false promises and false grand narratives about how big and how great and how everything Britain is. So these were falsehoods that the generation that came after the Second World War experience, and so, and this is reflected in the character of Tom. So you would have Tom representing the new generation, and you would have the Kitsons resisting him and trying to maintain the status quo. They are trying to tell him that this is perhaps the best that Britain can offer. This is the best time that you can think of. This idea of time is what it should be. The imagination is fake, is escaping, is remember this debate that they were locked in. I mean, the Kitsons on the one hand and Tom. And obviously, the Kitsons were proven wrong through the events and the revelations and what happened at the end when obviously Tom goes in this magic garden and goes to another time period and other spaces, and then he comes with all the learning and the awareness that he. So perhaps the author is trying to prove that imagination is not all bad, as the Kitsons were trying to highlight and stress. Um, so this is as far as characters are concerned. And again, I'm stressing the fact that I'm sorry, Hattie is central, and Tom and Hattie has this I mean, the idea that Hatti is different in a genre that highlight men and males and their masculinity and their assertiveness. Obviously, she is giving us um, a different way of looking at women and females. So this is as far as the characters are concerned. Let's move to the setting. So when we talk about setting, we talk about time and place, right? And even mood. So let's talk about the setting. How did we start? Where are we headed to? And how did we end? And whatever happens in between. Setting, everyone. Hmm. Yeah, Zuhur.
The setting keeps moving from the present to the past and then go back, present, past, all the novel.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, it's in one place, the house and the garden.
Remember, they were the novel started where he was.
Yeah, his home also. Yeah.
Yes, and then he was
Uh,
moved. Remember?
and his
Uh,
aunt's house, and then he go back to home again.
yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's interesting. This is in terms of place. Let's talk about time. Yeah, Layam, go ahead.
Uh, before I talk about before I discuss my idea, but I have a question that why they consider um, 1 o'clock a.m. Why they consider it 13
And
13.
it's a part of the magic of the whole thing. It's part of this. I mean, you may consider it. Again, you're talking about a child that perhaps he misread it, or perhaps he is imagining it. Perhaps it's part of the imaginative and the fantastical tools that we have everything is upside down until he goes. So you're talking about the clock, and you're not talking about what happens in the garden and the fact that it's magical and it takes him to the Victorian age. So obviously, it's part of the fantasy that the writer is trying to build in the novel. It's also it has to do with this concept of time that we've been talking about, where we're not talking about normalcy here. We're not talking about things happening in a normal way. No, this is perhaps some kind of invitation into the world of fantasy where you need to suspend your disbelief. You need to suspend the fact that this is 13, and you wouldn't measure it with your reason because your reason wouldn't accept it. Your reason here, I mean your mind. Yeah, go ahead. You wanted to say something about the setting.
Mm. I think I think that Tom prefers prefers what can I say? Prefers the time when the sun is I mean the sunrise instead of sunset, because every time he goes to the garden, I mean most of the times he goes to the magical garden only when the sun is, I mean when during the sunset, not I mean during the sunrise, not the sunset. He prefers morning and afternoon. He prefers them to night.
Okay. So this is your contribution to the element of time when we talk about the setting, or are you going to talk about more time in the novel when it comes to the setting? Because we spoke about space and place. So when you talk also about time, we talk about the different concepts of time that we have. We have linear, traditional time, and we have time that is not linear, that would allow you to move between the past and the present and to move to different time periods. Sometimes you are in the Victorian age. Again, the time here is very important, right? And it's not something that you put in the background or against which the characters would move, because obviously time is a very important dimension in life. You cannot do anything outside time. So it's not background. You would um, consider it a character in the novel. So time is very important with its different aspects, whether the linear or the non-linear. Again, the significance of moving to the past, and especially the Victorian age, and the values that the Victorian age bring, and again, you would have this huge debate on why singling out the Victorian age of all the other ages, and why painting it as if it is the best of all possible worlds when it was not. And this is one of the issues that the novel also grapples with, and we as readers actually grappled with, because we know a lot about the Victorian age, and the fact that it wasn't all honey and milk and everything. So this is as far as setting is concerned. What else? When we talk about a novel, you have characters, you have setting, you also have the plot itself, and of course, you know what happened in the plot. The plot would be the storyline, right? And of course, it's very clear and very simple, right? And then you have point of view. So is it first person or third person? The novel. Is it he and she and they, or we and I? Who is the narrator? Is Tom the narrator?
No, it's not Tom. It's a
Mhm.
third
It's a
person.
third person, yes. Okay. So is this third person detached, a detached observer, or does he or she stick labels to the characters, telling us who Tom is and what kind of character he is, who Hattie is and what kind of character she is? Does the narrator stick labels to the characters, or is he
Yes.
presenting the characters in a detached way, and then we come up with our own judgments and assessments, or what? What did you feel about the narrator? Intrusive,
I
or what?
I thought the narrator painted a very clear picture with no room for interpretation.
You mean he
Uh,
left us nothing?
yes, everything was presented, the feelings, the thought, the characters, impressions and habits and whatnot.
So did we feel that perhaps things are given from the perspective of those characters? The narrator goes deep into their inner sides and their minds, and perhaps give us what they think of. Is this how is can we describe the novel as a novel of psychology, or it doesn't have that?
Yes, it definitely goes deep into what the characters have in mind and feel.
Okay. Um, We need to, people who are reading the novel afresh, I would like you to think about the narrator and where the narrator is in the novel. Is he intrusive? Does he interfere? And does he tell us, he or she, of course, does he say everything, or are we given a space to come up with our assessments and conclusions about who the characters are and what kind of characters they are and they have and all those kinds of things. I think I'll stop on this note and with this item, and I'll meet you in the master class on Thursday, inshallah, at 8 a.m. Do you have any further questions before we call it a day?
I have a question, doctor.
Yes, go ahead.
Accord, according, some students got 4.33 in the first quiz, but will it be later 5 marks or not, or 4?
And this is, I mean, you still have the second quiz. You may have fractions in the second quiz. You may have fractions in the final exam. You may have fractions in the MTA. We put all things together and then you have the mark. So you're asking as whether we give you a higher mark. I mean, if it's like half or it's a quarter. If it's a quarter, we don't give you. If it's a half, we normally round it and it becomes a full mark. But again, this is too early because we still have other marks to be added to the mark that you have been given. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Yalla jama'a, on this note and with this item we come to the end of this lovely meeting. I'll see you on Thursday at 8 a.m. inshallah in the master class. Assalamu alaikum. Bye bye.
Walaikum salam.